have to apologize because I have been talking and didn't realize that I had muted myself. So sorry about that. So welcome to the webinar. Let me start again. So some quick technical details. This afternoon's webinar is being recorded. And so if you'd like to listen to it again, or you have other colleagues that want to listen to it at a later date, we will post it online. The materials, the PowerPoint, and the recording will be posted at a new website that we just put up, and you can see the address there. It's the cacollegepathways.org website, and then CAFES-document-exchange. And this is where we're going to be putting all of our presentation information, but we're also hoping that you folks will share any documents that you think might be helpful for other people to see, like program applications, course curriculums, summer bridge outlines, anything like that. You can send it to us and we'll put it up there on the exchange. We're going to be doing all the Q&A at the end of the webinar, but you're welcome to submit questions at any point during the web seminar, and you can see on your control panel there where you submit questions. So a couple of quick announcements. So we've got regional meetings coming up. So Northern and Central California on April 29th and Southern California May 13th in LA. If you're able to come, we really would love for folks to come. I think the content is going to be really interesting and helpful. We're going to provide a lot of opportunity for you all to share what's going on your campuses with each other. We heard from the last meeting that that's something that you wanted more time for. I just had a question, is the same information going to be presented? Yes, the general outline for the meetings is going to be the same for both of the regional meetings, so we wouldn't expect that you would go to both of them. And of course, the particulars are going to be different because the colleges are going to be different. So those who come to the April 29th will hear what's going on those campuses, and likewise for the SoCal. But the basic presentations and such, all of that will be identical for the two regional meetings. I wanted to remind folks, or tell you for the first time, if you weren't at the first regional meeting, that we're working with a group called A Home Within that provides free of charge therapy for foster youth. And they are just starting up a new program where they're going to be providing counseling services over the phone, specifically for parenting youth. And they very graciously decided to make this program available first for CAFES colleges. And so there's only a limited number of slots available. They're going to be doing the sessions over the summer. It'll be 8 weeks of weekly 1-hour sessions over the phone, specifically for youth who are parenting, who are enrolled in the CAFES program, or who are foster youth at your college, who are involved in one of your programs. So if you are interested in being one of the colleges to refer into this program, you can send me an email. My contact information will be on the very last slide of the presentation if you don't already have it. Stipend requests. As a reminder, we are offering stipends of $2,000 for colleges that are interested in participating in the learning community. Technically speaking, these are for reimbursing the travel costs to come to the various in-person events. Although we're issuing the funds as a stipend, we don't require that you spend them on any particular thing or that you use them for travel. If you have other sources for travel and you want to use our funds for something else that the CAFES funds wouldn't pay for, you're welcome to do that. So if you haven't already sent in your request for the stipend and you're interested, you can, again, email me and I will make sure to give you the information for that. And then the document repository, which I just talked about, that new website that we just launched. If you have documents that you're willing to share with other folks that we can post on that website, we'd love to be able to do that. One last reminder about the regional meetings. If you have not yet registered through our Eventbrite links, we ask that you do so as soon as possible, especially for the Northern one. It'd be really helpful for us to be able to get a clearer sense of how many people are going to be attending. So I'm very excited to have a couple of panelists joining me today. So in addition to myself being on the webinar, we've got Sherry Rodriguez, who's the Dean of Special Programs from Los Angeles Valley College, and Flo Charlie, who's the Counselor and Program Coordinator of Guardian Scholars at Sierra College. Unfortunately, we are going to have a representative from Fresno City College who was sick, is sick. And so unfortunately he wasn't able to join us today. But we're really excited with Sherry and Flo, and I think they've got some great content to share with you. However, before I turn it over to them, I wanted to just walk through really quickly some principles that we here at the John Burton Foundation put together in relation to creating CAFES programs and serving foster youth who aren't eligible for CAFES programs. And what I'm going to go over on these principles, they're not guidelines that are specified in statute or anything like that, but these are practices that we believe are really the best practices, and that we really encourage all of you to think about how you might be able to adopt to make sure that the foster youth on your college campus are really receiving the support that they need in the easiest way possible. So the first guiding principle is that all foster youth in need of support are able to access the services and resources they need to be successful in college. And we understand and we know that the eligibility for CAFES is limited. Not all foster youth are able to participate, and in fact, probably the majority of foster youth on your campuses don't meet the criteria for CAFES, and yet those foster youth are still likely to have needs and need support in order to be successful. So as much as possible, creating a continuum of programs where all foster youth are able to get the support they need. Second principle is that foster youth are able to develop and maintain consistent relationships, even as their eligibility might change for different benefits. We know that having consistent relationships is super important for foster youth, given the fact that probably in their past they've had very disruptive relationships. And so as much as possible, being able to allow foster youth to continue to work with personnel who they've developed those kind of relationships with is really beneficial. The mechanisms for accessing services are streamlined, easy to navigate, and consistent for all foster youth. As much as possible, and we know this isn't always possible, but making the benefits that are available to foster youth consistent as possible, regardless of CAFES eligibility. And of course, with CAFES is a pretty robust resource, and so we recognize that the benefits available to those who qualify for CAFES may be more expensive than what you can make available for those who don't. But as much as is feasible, trying to create some consistency is what we recommend. Keeping the administrative burden on foster youth as minimal as possible. As you all know, these are young people who have spent their lives grappling with various administrative systems and may be quicker to give up than somebody who hasn't had that negative experience. The consistent and stable funding is in place to support the continuum of resources for both CAFES and non-CAFES eligible foster youth, and both Sherry and Flo are going to talk about the different resources that they're using on their campus. Whenever feasible, that services for the different foster youth subpopulations are located in the same or nearby office space to each other. If you're creating outreach materials, flyers, websites, that type of thing, we recommend that you deliver a consistent message about the continuum of services available for foster youth, as opposed to having one flyer for your CAFES program and a totally separate flyer for a Guardian Scholars program, which would be very confusing for foster youth. And then if you do have foster youth support housed within different departments, so you've got CAFES obviously in EOPS, and if you do have a Guardian Scholars program that's housed somewhere else in FKCE or financial aid or someplace else, that you create formalized systems for collaboration to create a continuum of support that really enables all foster youth to achieve their academic goals. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sherry Rodriguez. Sherry?
Hi, good afternoon. With Valley College, next slide please. With Valley College, we developed our foster youth services in 3 phases. We started with the Pritzker funding that we were able to get 2 years ago, and we started offering foster youth services under the umbrella of EOPS, just housed here in our program. Then next, the equity funding came along, and we were able to add additional resources to the grant funding that we had received. And so then thus Guardian Scholars was born as well. And then subsequently, we've gotten the CAFES funding, so now we've got that third phase, and we are in the process of developing the CAFES program. But all along, what has been really helpful in terms of the services are some meetups that we have. Instead of calling them workshops, we call them meetups, and we have those about 5 times a semester. And that's a really great opportunity for the students to come together, and they've created a really strong community that way. Also with the funding, part of our services includes a counselor who serves all of those populations, whether they're CAFES or Guardian Scholars. And we've also made arrangements for her to have up to 1-hour appointments with the students, because we feel that they really need that ongoing service, and that can't just be accommodated in a 30-minute appointment. And then we've provided a lot of referrals. When students come in, they have needs that are really outside of the academic world. So with our coordinator, we've been able to develop some really great relationships with our community agencies, especially housing. So we've been able to provide a lot of referrals as well. In terms of numbers on our campus, we have about 350 foster youth. In EOPS, we have about 50. So we're working on improving that number. And then within Guardian Scholars, we have about 30 students, and now we have about 15 CAFES students. And so that's the numbers. And in terms of staffing, we have the Guardian Scholars Coordinator, whose role is to run those meetups and to do a lot of the administrative part of Guardian Scholars. And then we have the counselor, who sees all of the foster youth. And then we also have an intern through CSUN, and that person's been doing a lot of follow-up work and recruitment for the program. We still need to hire a clerical person desperately. Next slide, please. What's working at Los Angeles Valley College? Well, as I mentioned, we do have all of those funds, and we're working together to leverage them all so that we can provide services to all foster youth, whether they're eligible for EOPS or CAFES or not. So that's been most important. And as I mentioned, those meetups that we have, which are really well attended, anywhere from 15 to about 30 students show up for each of the what we call meetups. And the topics range from setting short-term goals to one that we just did on self-care. We've toured our new health services areas. There's a variety of topics that they've covered. And then what's also helpful is that we all are here in the EOPS area. Although we would love to have a bigger space, it is very convenient for the students and for us to communicate to be in one location. Then, as I mentioned, we have that dedicated staff, which are just awesome. What we found, too, is we are now doing an extended admissions process, meaning that we'll accept students just nearly any time within the semester. We really found if we said to them, you know, come back later when we're accepting new students, that they didn't come back. So now we're extending our admissions process all the way just about to the end of the semester, so that they feel welcome no matter what time they come in to the program throughout the year. And then lastly, we do have paperwork that essentially looks the same, whether they're Guardian Scholars or CAFES students. The applications and then the mutual responsibility agreement, they look almost identical. We just change out the some of the services and then the titles at the top of the pages, so that we can really see that we are trying to provide each student with the same level of service no matter where they are. And then we do distinguish between the two programs by having files that are different colors. So next slide, please. And then we found that we were really grappling with trying to figure out how we were providing services and funding for all the students. So we sat down and did this crosswalk spreadsheet. And so as you can see at the top, we have the programs, Guardian Scholars, EOPS, and CAFES. And then to the right of that bold line, we also have the other resources that are available to students. So we listed out the staff, so you can see how we're splitting the funding for the Guardian Scholars Coordinator between equity and CAFES, and the same with the counselor. The intern we're paying entirely out of CAFES, and then when we do get that clerical person, they will be paid out of CAFES as well. Then we outline the eligibility requirements because it gets all kind of muddly in your head as you're trying to remember all the different eligibility requirements for foster youth. So we outlined them there. And then we plotted out all the different services and what our requirements were for each population. So many times we'll think, oh, what are we doing for Guardian Scholars? We can look at this sheet and then see what we had talked about and how we're providing that to them. So next slide, please. And we do have what we are calling puzzles, things that we are still grappling with. One primarily is the program name. We are deciding whether or not we will continue to call everything Guardian Scholars, including CAFES, even though those students will still essentially be funded through CAFES funding. But we just find that it's getting confusing to students to say, are you Guardian Scholars or CAFES? And we want to be able to have them all feel welcome and known as Guardian Scholars. So we're still grappling with that, because then on the back end, when it comes to funding and audits, we want to make sure that it's clear that who is who, if that makes sense. And then also being in one location, it is a little bit, what's the word, daunting, in the sense that if a student comes in and they're not eligible for EOPS, then they're not able to take advantage of our EOPS computer lab. So that's kind of something that we're trying to decide what to do with, because that is, just makes them feel a little bit less than, in a way, for lack of a better word. And then, of course, I was telling you about the wonderful intern that we have from Cal State Northridge. We are bummed to see him leave at the end of the year. So that is something that we're trying to decide what we're going to do. I'm sure we will continue with an intern, but we want to figure out how we can have that continuum of services, by training someone each year. And then I'm also concerned with how the students feel when this person leaves each year. Maybe if it's expected, it won't be so bad, but we've come to grow and love him, and so it's sad to see him go after a year. And that's the extent of my presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hi, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to introduce you, Flo, so go ahead and jump on in.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Flo Charlie. I'm the counselor and coordinator for the Guardian Scholars program at Sierra College. So next slide, please. Overview of our services. So it's pretty interesting. The Guardian Scholars program actually became officially instituted at Sierra College as of last semester. That's fall of 2015. So this is our first year. Prior to the Guardian Scholars program, there's always been services through between financial aid, our college foundation office, and EOPS. They've been serving foster youth for years. Through EOPS, and those who didn't qualify for EOPS, they did their best to connect them to other counselors if needed, funding that was available to them for whatever their special needs were. But since last semester, we received the Equity Fund, so very similar to what Sherry just provided. And the first phase, it was between financial aid and EOP&S, and then Equity came in last year, and Guardian Scholars was born. And then the beginning of spring semester, we were blessed with the CAFES funds. So now we have the CAFES program as well. At Sierra College, we have three, subgroups of foster youth. Our program serves all youth who've been in foster care. So if they were in foster care at age 2, was adopted by age 4, we still consider them as foster youth students, and so they are accepted into the Guardian Scholars program. And those students, we consider them as Guardian Scholars Associates. Anyone who's been in foster care before their 13th birthday and are older than 24 years old, those are the ones who are Guardian Scholars Associates. Anyone who's been in foster care a day after their 13th birthday and are younger than 25, those are Guardian Scholars. And then now we know with CAFES is anyone who's been in foster care a day after their 16th birthday, but are not older than 26 years old, where those are CAFES students. A lot of our students, we try not to make anything confusing for them. We're just like, okay, we'll take you in, you're Guardian Scholars. Most of the students, all 3 students or level of students, receive counseling services, so they're able to see me 3 times each semester. They are able to access our financial aid technician. They're able to access transfer assistance, meaning they meet with me to discuss classes if they're planning to transfer. College tours, they're able to participate in those. Tutoring, all of them get free tutoring. If it's not through the equity funds, it's through EOPS KFES. All students will receive school supplies and care packs, which is filled with hygiene products and all of that, and graduation assistance. So we're able to, if they're in EOPS or Guardian Scholars, we're able to buy or purchase their cap and gowns for graduation. Things that differ between the groups are, of course, priority registration and the John Burton book voucher, which I'll talk more about how equity funds will assist those students. Right now, we are currently serving 95 students. Overall, we have above 100 plus who are verified foster youth, and they provide their documentations to our financial aid office, but only 95 are currently receiving the services or opting in on receiving the services. So 64 of those students are, 31 are just Guardian Scholars. 24 are 64 are in EOP&S. Out of the 64 in EOPS, 40 of those students are participating in the KFES program. So total we have 95, 64 in EOPS, 31 in Guardian Scholars. In terms of staffing, I am the one counselor and coordinator. We've recently hired our financial aid specialist in outreach and student technician, so she has dual roles. Her name is Brittany, so she reports to our financial aid manager as well as our dean, our student equity dean. We also have Erica, who's our graduate student intern. She works with all of our KFES students. She reports to myself and Susie Lee, who is our EOP&S care and KFES coordinator. And so that's pretty much it. So it's myself, Brittany, who's our financial aid, and Brittany works with all foster youth, so everyone in EOP&S and Guardian Scholars. Erica is our graduate student intern. She started with us this semester, and she's currently only working with our KFES students. And then Susie, myself, Linda, Stephen Baisa, who's a student equity, all work together as a unit. Things that are working at Sierra College, we have one location, and one location meaning Guardian Scholars is co-located with EOP&S program, very close by the DSPS, which is Disability Services, Student Services and Programs, Financial Aid Office, TRIO, CalWorks. So if I have any questions regarding financial aid, of course I have my financial aid technician that'll support me. Questions regarding EOP&S, questions regarding DSPS, we all kind of work together if we have a shared student. One of the awesome things that we have is that I am the first point of contact. We kind of put that out there to all of our IOP workers, our social workers, any of the counselors, if they ever come across a foster youth student, that they can start with our office first. Even if they have not become a Sierra College student, they can start with us, and we can kind of help them understand what the process of enrollment is like. So, here you apply to Sierra College. Once you get that, okay, come back. We will set you up and have you connected to our assessment center. After that, then you come and see me, and I will kind of go over how to read a class schedule and how to pick classes depending on their major. So that we're not sending students all over. We have our financial aid office technician who's right outside of my door, so we'll connect with them, have the student connect with that, our Brittany, to kind of go over what documents are missing, if students have any questions. So they know that if they have any questions, they contact me or Brittany if it has to do with financial aid. Other things, So yeah, so Ben, I mean, like I mentioned, if we can go to the next, oh no, this is the same slide. There's always been that strong culture here of working with our student population, our foster youth population. So again, if Brittany can't, get an answer, she can walk right over to Linda and Linda Williams, who's the manager, as well as other staff to kind of get support. And they're always willing to have an open door and give any resources that they can provide to our students. Same with EOP&S and DSPS, which is Student Disability Services. We have a strong network with our community supporters. So like I mentioned, our county ILP, our Placer County Office of Ed, Pride Industries, any of our employment, iFoster. We host monthly meetings. It's once a month. We meet for about 2 hours to kind of make sure that all groups are understanding what's happening at Sierra College, and if they have any questions, and they also share with us what's happening and how they can assist and support our students. So that is awesome. Our foundation office do year-round fundraisers to help support our students in terms of housing and other special needs that our equity can't support, or if they're part of EOPS, they can't support. I mentioned earlier that, not mentioned earlier, but to someone else, we have homelessness is an issue with our students, and our foundation office have a pot of money that can help support our students with short-term housing as we work on a plan to help give them the long-term housing. So they would put them in a hotel or for whatnot for about a week or so while we work out something with in terms of housing, so they're not homeless, and help them focus more in school. Next slide, please. Something that I'm continuing to work on is giving regular sessions, info sessions to all of the counselors, part-timers and full-timers, about our services and changes and things like that and process, just so that they know. I get a lot of referrals from our counselors here. When they come across the students can self-identify through our CCC Apply applications. They self-identify on financial aid, but sometimes they miss both of those, and they will disclose it to our counselors here on campus. So once they have that, the counselors come right over and kind of connect them to me and the office. So continuing of that, equity. So KFES is an expensive form of services. Equity is willing to provide whatever they can to give the same amount of support to the non-KFE eligible students. So the 31 who are part of Guardian Scholars, what they're doing is they're trying to give as much as they can to provide them, especially when it comes to book vouchers. Some of our students don't qualify for the book voucher. Our students don't qualify for the transportation, so that's one of the biggie things that they want to, services and support for. So the book vouchers and the transportation assistance, parking permits, gas cards, those types of things. So that's coming up, and we do also use different folders. So we have our EOPS students identified by the color of their folders, and the same with the Guardian Scholars. Next slide, please. I wanted to share the program application. This is what we have for now, and I'm hearing, one of our other speakers talked about the same application. That's a really good idea, so that's something that we might look into. So the Guardian Scholars application, that's what I have. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, in terms of the application, this is really how I know, okay, is a student a Guardian Scholar, meaning they've been in foster care day after their 13th birthday but not yet 25, or are they Guardian Scholars Associate? And so they have a questionnaire on there about CHAFE, are you in extended foster care, are you currently in IOP? And that question to me is important because if they're from out of county and they are not connected to their IOP, I always encourage them to connect with an IOP. They are one of our biggest, strong supporters in terms of any services outside of our academic world that we can't really assist them with. So if they're not, I'd like to connect them to them or make a referral. We talk about housing. Next slide, please. And the other part that I do is the current barriers to access, academic success or employment. So if students are marking off, needing childcare, transportation, mental health, all those things, needing help purchasing books, that's one of the ones that's highly picked, or getting food. Then I start talking to students about the services that are available to them on campus and off campus. So, my big job is to make sure that they're connected on campus and off campus. So I'll make sure that I make the referrals for those. Next slide, please. Things that we are working on, Susie and I, Susie is the coordinator of the EOP&S program, counselor and coordinator for the program, where we're talking about possibly changing the name of KFES to just Guardian Scholars, or a Guardian Scholarship for those who are selected to be in the Guardian Scholars for the upcoming. So that way it's less confusing and less names and acronyms for students to learn. Equity Fund, streamlining that procedure. Equity is, and on our campus, sort of new in terms of office, so we have a new administrator who's learning the process of, okay, how do I pass the funds to the students, or how do I award the students of certain services. So that's something that's still in the works, and hopefully things will kind of smooth on out by fall of this upcoming year. And as of right now, only the KFES students are getting access to a success coach or our graduate student intern. It's something that I hope that all Guardian Scholars can have access to. So for the non-KFES students, I hope they also one day will get the same access. So I'm looking at equities to also help make that happen. Right now, our KFES students are seeing our graduate intern twice a month. For check-in, and for me, I think it'll be just good just to have someone to check in to help prevent those crises. A lot of times students are coming in, it's at crisis mode, but hopefully when they're meeting someone at least twice a month, that things come up prior to that last minute, I'm in crisis, this is it. And then creating more meetup opportunities for students. We just had one this past Friday, and it was about vision boards. We created vision boards, and students enjoyed themselves, enjoyed the company of each other and those who were in the room. So I'm hoping to create more of that. There's dedicated space talked about for the Guardian Scholars program itself, so that students can come in and hang out. They know exactly who to go to, where to come to, but it's a space for them to come in and make them feel more like at home. So that's up and coming, and that's pretty much it on my part. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much, Flo. So we're going to take some time now for questions. So if folks have questions for Sherry or Flo or me, you can go ahead and use that questions panel that's on your control panel to send those in. My contact information is there on the screen as well, so if you have other questions that come up later, or you want the link to register for the regional meetings, or you want information about the stipend, or you want information about the parenting, counseling support, you can send me an email and I'm happy to provide that to you. I also put up the link for where all of this information is going to be posted. So one question for you, Flo, you mentioned that you're starting to do some meetups. Are those meetups open to both KFES and non-KFES students? Do they come together for that, or is it for just one or the other?
They do come together for those, yeah. It's for all.
Great. And so I have a question, this is sort of to both of you, and Sherry, maybe I'll start with you. When you think about, like, if you were going to offer advice to some of the newer programs, I know you've been around for a little while now, a couple of years with the Guardian Scholars, but for those who are starting a KFES program kind of brand new this year and don't necessarily have a Guardian Scholars already in place, do you have any advice for how they can set it up to be able to serve the students that might come to their door that turn out to not be eligible for KFES?
Yeah, it's the equity funds, I think, is the magic resource. And then going from there, it's, what's difficult for us is always hiring someone. That's always the challenge. And, we fortunately have been able to get some folks on board so that we can serve both populations. But really, I think for us, though, what was helpful was doing that crosswalk document and defining who the different students are, and then what you think you're able to provide to each population realistically, and being willing to put some of those things in the parking lot to say, you know what, that's a really great idea, but we're going to move forward on starting small and then developing it as we move along.
Flo, what about you? What are your thoughts on that question? What you would advise to somebody who's starting this from scratch, brand new?
I would pretty much ditto Sherry's. Utilize really the equity funds as much as you can, because I mean that's how the Guardian Scholars here is being supported. It is totally outside of EOP&S, so for those who don't qualify, at least we're touching as many as we can. Students, yeah.
So I have another question, and I'm also going to put this to both of you. I'll start with you, Sherry. Do you have a sense yet, and I know it's still pretty early on in the process, but for those foster youth who are not eligible for CAFES in particular, are you finding that it's more often because they're not eligible for EOPS, meaning that they're not taking the 9 units, or is it because they're not meeting some of the other CAFES criteria, like been in care, they weren't in care after 16, or they're over the 26-year age limit, or is it kind of a combination of all of those things?
It is a combination, but most often it is the age. Either they're a little bit older, and so it would be helpful if the criteria for CAFES was kind of in line with ILP criteria. Because we kind of create a subpopulation with CAFES. So I don't know if that's ever a possibility, so that they're both are in line. But needless to say, though, that most of the students seem to be able to enroll in the 9 units. If they're not able to, then we make them Guardian Scholars and see if they can get into 9 units in the future, and then we'll bring them into EOPS and then hopefully CAFES if they're of age. But yeah, it's kind of all over the map in terms of eligibility.
Right. And Flo, are you finding the same thing, that the people that you have to turn away from CAFES is more often not because they are not meeting the specific CAFES criteria of when they were in foster care or their current age?
Yeah, that is what we're finding. There's a lot who are either over the age of 26 or have exited foster care system prior to 16th birthday. Yeah.
So in those cases, do you try to get them into EOPS? If not, if they don't qualify for CAFES because they don't meet the foster care criteria, are they able to access just regular non-CAFES EOPS?
Yes. And like I mentioned, we have about 95, and 24 of the 95 students are in EOPS, just EOPS, and not CAFES. And then 31 of those students are in Guardian Scholars, and the reason why they're in Guardian Scholars is because they don't have the 9 units, or the 9 units, or they've exited EOPS due to past student mutual agreement. They didn't qualify due to that. They didn't meet their requirements or criteria, and so I just work with them with 1 semester, and then hopefully put them back into EOPS the upcoming semesters. Yeah. I do have 30, and some of the 31 students in the Guardian Scholars do qualify for CAFES. It's just they're not meeting the GPA requirements or the unit requirements at the moment.
So I don't know if anybody who's listening in has any questions or comments. If you want to share anything about what you're doing on your campus, or challenges you might be facing, or questions about how Sierra or LA Valley are running their programs. Not seeing any questions coming in. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds in case anybody has any last thoughts that they want to make sure they share. Oh, here we go. Can Flo expand more on the emergency housing? Can you talk a little bit more about what that entails?
Like I meant, our foundation office, we have an event that's coming up this Saturday. It's called Taste of Excellence, and it's our foundation office. It's a fundraising event that goes towards a lot of the different things that's happening on our campus, but majority of it actually goes towards our foster youth services, our students. So the emergency housing, like I mentioned, we had a student who had to exit the dorms from fall semester into going into spring, so he had no place to stay, and he was already working with our IOP workers, so we were able to put him in a nearby hotel paid for by our foundation office. So they have our foundation office fundraise year-round to help support some of these things. Sometimes our students who are in our dorms don't have a place to go to in between breaks, because our dorm closed down during winter break, and so in between breaks, if they have no place to go and we weren't able to connect them with a respite housing, that's our last resort, which we oftentimes use. And so we'll put our students in there paid for meals and all of that paid for by our foundation office. So that's our emergency housing. There's usually a time of when they will, they enter the housing or our hotels, and when they exit the hotels. So while they're living at the hotels, we're working on services to connect them with long-term housing care for them. So if it's coming back to the dorms, we make sure we connect with the dorms on when they can open up the dorm rooms for our students to return, or if it's long-term housing, that we work with very closely with the student, whomever the worker is, to get them back into that. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, so any other final questions before we sign off? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I want to say one more question. What have you both found is your best outreach strategy? Sherry, why don't we start with you?
The continuation schools. Alex has done a fantastic job with, he had some connections already in the continuation schools, so he's expanded on that, and we've gotten a lot of referrals through those folks, and then with the community agencies.
What about you, Flo?
We do, like I mentioned, our monthly meetings with all our folks. A lot of the students who are in our area are probably touched by our ILP workers, so our ILP bring in the most amount of students straight to our services because they are already connected with us and they kind of know what the process is like from our monthly meetings. We also do semester, outreach days, where we invite everyone, whomever that's interested, in the word just kind of gets passed around. And sometimes our folks who are going out to talk to our outreach folks from our colleges will go out and pass information about our program.
Great. So I have another question that came in, and so I think for both of you. So Sherry, we'll start with you. The question is, how has the consistency been of your student? Have students been able to maintain the program requirements effectively?
Yeah, they've been doing pretty well. I mean, we do have students that, face crises, and they'll kind of drop out, and then we welcome them back in the following semester. But that's been kind of a give and take there, because within EOPS, we're very strict with the 1,200 students that we have. So we've learned to become a little bit more lenient and supportive with the foster youth, and so that's been, that is a challenge with the foster youth. But all in all, though, I think having CAFES and Guardian Scholars has made EOPS even a stronger program, in the sense that we're becoming, more holistic in a way, and so for that, I think we're better for it all.
Great. How about you, Flo?
It's so far going really well. I think the Guardian Scholars requirements I aligned it very well with close to the EOPS requirements, so they are required to see me 3 times each semester. So I think a lot of students, if they've been in EOPS and kindergarten scholars, they kind of have that, like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to see you 3 times. This semester, it's going really well. I'm very, very happy about, you know, the students. Those who are deciding to kind of drop out this semester due to high needs of making sure that their basic needs are being met, they communicate to us, and it's all in relationship. So the relationship building. So I think that is going really well. I've been here for now 2 years, and I think the beginning was a kind of rocky, and that's, I mean, and that's given, you know, a lot of our students have, you know, past history of having inconsistent folks in their lives. And so when they're meeting someone for the first time, it's like, oh, I don't know you, and I don't know if I'm going to be consistent with you or trust you enough. And going into the second year, I think majority of them have built real strong relationship with myself and other staff members and faculty members around here. So that it's actually going really well. When they can't make it or they're running late, they're calling, they're emailing, they're doing whatever they need to do. So I'm kind of happy. It's going really great.
Great. That's wonderful to hear. So I'm not seeing any other questions come in. So again, I want to say a huge thank you to Sherry and Flo. Thank you to everybody for participating. And we look forward, hopefully, to seeing most of you at the upcoming regional meetings. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Bye.